Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Welcome to the Healing Generation podcast. My name is Ariel Jimenez, and I will be your host today. You're currently tuning into the youth-led portion of the Healing Generation podcast, where today we will get a dive into the healing journey and story of Perla. She has participated and graduated from both Joven Noble and Girasol circles, and we're happy to have her as a guest today. So welcome, Perla.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Of course. So, for us, it's always important to just start off with a little conocimiento. We've always been taught to get to know each other before we jump into business, before we jump into the party, before we jump into anything that we're going to gather, right? So for us, it's always important to just get to know who's at the table. So let me just go ahead and get started. Conocimiento. Who is Perla? Who do you represent? What is it about you that you want to tell us today?
Well, hello. My name is Perla Equihua Navajasmin. I am an 18-year-old Chicana born and raised in Eastside San Jose. I represent my beautiful mother and all the women from Michoacan, San Juan Nuevo, where my parents originated from. I represent everyone trying to get to know and love themselves a little more every day and just to enjoy life.
Representing Michoacan. I love that. My dad's from Michoacan, from Briseña, Michoacan, but was raised in La Barca, Jalisco. So shout out to the folks from Michoacan. My partner's also from Michoacan as well. So a lot of powerful, beautiful people coming from there. So, you mentioned being part of the circles, right? I know you participated with Yesenia Citlali and Joven Noble and Girasol. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and participating in circle? How was that for you?
Honestly, it was like the best experience I could ever ask for. I never thought going into Foothill I would be introduced to that type of group. I had a friend who was already in group the summer before, and she just was like, "You gotta join." And I did it. And once I did, when I first started group, I was very shy and quiet. But then I always picked up on the things that they would say and teach us in each session. So I never left group not knowing something new, either about myself or just a way of living, I would say. So I really enjoyed that. I just grew with every session, and I'm just extremely grateful to be part of it.
Well, I know they equally benefited from having you in circle and all your stories and everything like that. But thinking back about that experience, is there one teaching that stuck with you the most? Is there one teaching that was maybe your favorite? And if there was, what was that teaching? Do you mind sharing?
Honestly, it was little bit of everything, but I would say the one that I had more knowledge about, since it was new for me, was the toxic relationships in the Joven Noble groups, because they had a session for toxic relationships or just relationships in general.
Yeah.
So that really was just damn, I was able to speak more about my experience and just understand why I was in that position, I'll say.
No, I think that one definitely is important. I think for both the young folks in there, right? I know when we have that conversation with the young men, it really dives into, the whole concept of en la quech, of tú eres mi otro yo, and how do I represent the values that I'm looking for?
Exactly.
So thinking about high school students, why do you think it's important to have that conversation about toxic relationships at the high school level?
I feel in the high school level, we already know what our relationships, either it be with a partner, just folks in our school, classmates, teachers, family, they're all relationships. And if we're not taught at a young age how to respect one another, how to properly talk to one another and how to interact, we carry those negative not negative teachings, but negative
experiences,
values into negative values into people we meet, new people we meet. So we're not taught any other way to talk to one another. So we just carry that with us. And we think, okay, this is what I see, so I'm going to do this with my partner or with my teachers or stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Especially because in sometimes those spaces, you probably have more questions than you have answers.
Yeah.
So I think even just sitting in circle, feeling that comfort of like, hey, you know, I've always wondered this. Do you all experience this within your relationships?
Yeah, and I also feel like in those teenage years, we don't usually, if we don't have that connection with our like family members, elders, we don't talk to them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We don't seek advice from them, and we seek advice from our friends who are the same age as us and probably haven't experienced or just experienced not enough of like what we're trying to ask, I'll say. So it's just two people who have no idea what to do, just trying to give advice to each other, and it gets nowhere because we're like, okay, like, what are we gonna do, you know?
Yeah.
So.
You try to get advice from someone who's right there next to you, right?
Yeah. And it's like
about the road ahead. No, I get it. So thinking about high school, right? Because sometimes there's a little bit of a stigma with certain high schools. But how was your overall high school experience? Like even out of circle, like how was the interactions with teachers? How was that environment? Because I know you transferred into Foothill. So can you talk about like how was your transition in? Did you like that school? Did you not? What were some highlights?
Well, before Foothill, I was a completely different student, and then it was quarantine. So I was like forced to just like be alone and like work on myself. And then once I entered Foothill, I had more understanding of like, okay, I want to graduate. I actually am going to like try and go out of my classes and just respect the teachers, respect myself, and just like stay out of drama that's unnecessary. And then Foothill just made that like 10 times easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. What do you think led to that transformation? Like that change of mindset, the change of like goals. What do you think like got you to that point?
Just like having to be alone.
It's different, huh?
Yeah, it's like, damn. Like no more distractions.
No, that's real. I think, you know, the pandemic for a lot of us, it was very painful. But I think for a lot of us, it was very transformational because you had no more distractions. You had no more concerts to go to, no more ball games to go watch. Like it was literally you had to be by yourself, with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it allowed for that transformation to take place. Let me ask you this question because this one's going to be a little trickier. If you were to look at the schools, high schools in general, knowing that now you graduated, you're removed from the schools, is there one thing that you would change about schools? Like if you had the power to do that, what about high schools would you change?
No cell phones.
Why?
But also I feel like if I had the power to take away cell phones, it would have to start like at a young age, like kindergarten, because kids do have cell phones now in kindergarten, second grade, third grade. So just remove cell phones from campus, but not make it for the kids to like hate the teachers or hate the school system about it. You know, so that's why I would say you have to start young. But yeah, I just think the interactions with like kids and teachers, classmates, like just in overall, would be way different. I feel like people would just make more connections and not just hate going to school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think the connection part it's a big part, right? Because you think like social media is supposed to connect you a little bit further. And I think sometimes it does a good job to stay connected with people that you normally wouldn't stay connected with. But I think on the deeper level, that in-person interaction definitely will help if you didn't have phones.
Yeah, it hits different. Like being face to face, talking to someone, than being on the phone 24/7, distracted.
Yeah, no, for real. So thinking about just high school in general, thinking about the youth, is there any barriers that the youth face, any obstacles that they're trying to overcome? Like for the people that don't have like high schoolers in their house, for the people that don't have like children or grandchildren that are in that age that might be listening in, what are some barriers that people are facing right now that you want to highlight?
I want to go back to like what I said about quarantine, just like being alone. And this goes in with like drugs, like parties, like social media, and like like violence, basically. Because since people don't like to be alone, they seek that in something else. They distract themselves with something else, I would say. And I would say, yeah, it's mostly like high school students because it's when it's like put in their face, like of like social media, like drugs, violence, like parties, you know?
Yeah. I think that's when they get exposed the most, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're not doing any of those things, it can make you feel like a nobody.
That's like the double-edged sword, right? Because if you're not doing those things, then you don't feel like you're in the inner circle. You don't feel popular.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel connected. You don't feel seen. But if you are doing those things, then there's other risks, right? Because if you're not doing the right
Yeah.
drugs, if, there's a possibility of an OD, a lot of people are now doing fentanyl and they're
Yeah.
passing away.
Yeah. Or even if you are doing those things, at the end of the day, you go back home and you're just like laying in your room alone and you're just like, okay, what now? Like, you don't feel fulfilled. And that's what people think, that like, oh, if I have the right friends, if I have the right clothes, if I have the right like followers, likes, whatever it is, I'm gonna feel so happy. Like, life is gonna be great. And it's quite the opposite.
You don't feel fulfilled. That's key. I think that's important right there. So I'm glad that you said that. So switching gears a little bit, because I think like the lack of fulfillment, the lack of connection, all of that leads to trauma sometimes, right? Like it leads to not feeling seen. It feels to like not feel a sense of self-worth. But when that word of healing, when that comes to mind, how would you define healing in general?
But when I think of healing, I think of like any healthy form of expressing your feelings, either it be anger, hurt, sadness. You just gotta let it out by like crying, like hitting your pillow, screaming, going on a walk, aggressively writing your thoughts out on a paper and like burning it, or just like in a journal, venting to someone, or just like thinking out loud, or just going to the gym, running. That's what I think it's healing, of healing. Like just any healthy form of just expressing and just letting out your emotions.
Any healthy form of expressing your emotions. I like that. Which one, because you mentioned a couple, which one out of all of those have you learned from the most? Or have you benefited from the most? And why?
Well, I done them all. But it's just depending on like, what do you need to let out? Sometimes you could do 4 until you do the 4th one, you're like fully let it go. It has left your system. But yeah, I feel like all of them are just beneficial. Like sometimes you just need to scream. Sometimes I just need to cry. Sometimes I just need to cry and write down like my thoughts. Sometimes I just need to go to the gym and just run and like lift heavy weights. Just hit a pillow. Like it's just depending on like what's going to bring you calmness at the end of it. Like when we're going to be able to take a deep breath and be like, okay, I'm good.
No, I agree. I like the notion that maybe you need more than one. Why stop at one, right? If writing helps me, if taking a breath helps me, if going to the gym helps me, why do I only got to stick to one? I like that. So I know in Circle we talk about healing, we talk about trauma, but one of the other words that we talk about is being and feeling sacred. So let me ask you this. When did you realize you were sacred? Like when was that moment? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah. For this question, I had to like think a little harder than the other ones. And the only like moment that came to my mind was when I said to myself, okay, like I'm going to fully stop smoking. And when I did stop smoking, I'll say that was the moment I was just like, okay, like I'm sacred enough to just let this go and not let it affect my like social image that like supposedly I have, which I don't. But it's like as a teenager in high school, you feel like you have like a status, and then if you stop doing like it's like for me, I stopped smoking. It's like, okay, are these people still gonna hang out with me? Like, or am I still gonna be like invited to these certain things? But then it's like I'm sacred enough to just let this go and still be truly happy with myself and not let these certain type of friend groups, this certain type of events like affect my happiness.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. Because there's certain people, even when I stopped smoking, that phone didn't ring no more. The, hey, what you up to? Didn't happen no more. Right? And that's on the good side. On the other side, like, damn, you've changed. Damn, you think you're too good now? Right? So you get all angles.
Yeah.
So it's always hard. If you don't mind me asking, what made you want to stop?
So for me, it had like at like a 2-year span since that I wanted to either cut down and just like completely stop. So I had like a lot of a trial and error. So it came to the point where it's like, okay, I have took intolerance breaks and whatever, but I was still addicted to it. I still felt like I needed it. So I would smoke. And then I would get high, and then I'll have bad anxiety. And then another week goes by that I don't smoke, but then I smoke again, bad anxiety. And I'm always like, I would write it down. Like when I'm high, I'll be like, you're high right now. You have bad anxiety. Like, remember this feeling. So when you do want to smoke, you're just like, don't smoke because you're going to feel this type of way, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then it just came to a moment where I was in summer school, and then my teacher, he was talking about like how your lungs look after smoking for a long period of time. So then I was just like, damn, that looks ugly, you know, like that ain't cute. And then that got into my head, and I was like, do I really want to keep on doing this? You know, like I feel like shit when I do it. And then my insides look like shit when I do it, you know? So I was just like, yeah, I got to stop. And then I smoked even though like I processed all this like information, I smoked. And then I was just like, no, I seeked for help with, I went to go talk to Yesenia and Teclali because I knew they were in campus. Like I started to tear up and cry, and I was just like, damn, like I want to stop, you know? So, so yeah. And they were just like comforting me, and they were just like, they're like, just basically telling like, you know, you could do this, you know, if you really want to. And then I just kept on like thinking of like, what's your palabra to yourself? You know, you said like, I say I want to smoke, and I was like, if I make that my palabra, like it's something I have to own up to. So in that moment, I was like, okay, that's part of my palabra, like to not smoke weed, you know. And in that moment, I was just like, damn, like it's done.
And you know what? Let me commend you for that, because I think that mindset is important. What palabra do I have to myself? Because we're very good about taking care of other people. I remember even with smoking weed, I would tell my sister, you better not touch this as I'm rolling up. You better not. I better not ever see this in your hand as I'm going to go hang out with some friends and do that same thing.
Exactly.
And it wasn't until my sister looked at me and she said, if you don't want it for me, why would you want it for yourself? And I was like, damn. Because I was real. So I just want to commend you for that, because it's not easy to stop. It's not easy to quit. And like how you said, there's many trial and errors. But this brings me to another question, because you brought up some people that kind of helped you realize that. But just in your own life, in your own circle, in your own healing journey, is there anybody that you want to highlight that walked with you in that journey, that supported you a little bit more in that journey, that when you think about feeling loved and supported, that comes to mind? Who is that person and why?
I would just say my mom, even though she didn't like really like understand of like addiction, stuff like that. She's just like, you got this. Like, just being there on the sidelines, just saying like, you got it. Like, keep going. Like, even when I messed up, like, she'll just be like, it's okay. Like, you could just try again and try again and try again, you know, like, and fuck, like, I would like also like just annoy her, like with like when I would smoke, you know, I'll get her so mad and stuff like that, but she'll still comfort me, still like rub my head and just be like, it's okay. Big props to her, because fuck.
So let me ask you two things. One, if you don't mind sharing your mom's name with us. And two, what is one thing that she's taught you that you carry with you every day?
Well, my mom's name is Natalia Nava. And the thing she has taught me is unconditional love to everyone, even if they did you wrong. And even to the people who did you wrong, you're supposed to show more love, extra love to them. And I'm just like, damn, it's crazy.
That's tough.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. And sometimes I'll be getting mad at her. I'll be like, bro, like what are you doing? She'll just be like, it's okay. Like, there's no need to just have anger in your heart, you know?
There's no space for anger in your heart. I like that part. We were talking about sacredness, and we were talking about challenges, and we were talking about obstacles. Has there ever been a time where you didn't feel sacred? Has there ever been a time where maybe your sacredness was challenged or in a space where you didn't feel like you were welcomed?
Hell yeah. But I feel like it has more to do with like how like I respected myself and what were my values. And even if I feel like these people weren't like respecting me enough, I was still there. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't respect myself enough, or I didn't love myself to be alone and leave those people, you know? Like let them be. Well, I was in a toxic relationship at a
Mm-hmm.
young age, and I moved in with him. I don't want to say it's because of the toxic relationship, because I got into that knowing I didn't love myself or respect myself, you know?
Yeah.
Or being scared to be alone. So, like, when you're scared to be alone, I feel like if you put yourself in so many situations where it doesn't really have to be like that, or it didn't have to get to that. But since you want to distract yourself so badly, you seek for like anything. And yeah, like I didn't feel sacred for a long period of time, and I didn't want to face it, you know?
Well, thank you for sharing, because I know sometimes those experiences don't bring up the best memories.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how Tia Susie and our Maestro Jerry Teo always remind us that we're sacred,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what experiences we might have been through, regardless of what scars we carry. We're sacred just the way we are. So for me, it's always good to have that reminder. You mentioned being alone and feeling alone, and one of the questions is, what advice would you have for someone who might be feeling alone or being alone at this moment? What advice would you give them?
I would say be alone till it gets to the point where being alone doesn't make you feel lonely. Because it's great to be alone, you know? It's great to stand with yourself. It's great to just be with yourself and just be present with yourself. But it just sucks when being alone makes you feel lonely. So just be with yourself until that lonely feeling goes away.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I struggle with being alone, even in public. My partner goes and watches a movie by herself. I can't do that. She'll go out and be like, "Hey, babe, I'm gonna go to a restaurant." Oh, who are you going with? You going with one of your friends? No, I'm gonna go by myself and just sit down there, grab my food, and I for whatever reason I can't. But I think that's a different level of strength.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different muscle. So I appreciate that teaching.
And that's beautiful. Like not waiting for someone to do the things you want to do. You know, that's like powerful. Like, you know, so props to your wife.
Thank you. Not married yet, though. Don't be putting that out there yet. Partner.
Partner, my bad.
She's going to listen to this podcast and be like, where's my ring? One of the best questions that I've seen on this podcast, and I want to give a shout out to my co-host AB, because AB normally asks this question. So today I'm stealing it from him because he's not here to stop me. But he always asks, if you had a stage and a mic, what issue would you bring light to?
Just self-love. Honestly, like I try to shine as much light as I can to everybody that I meet. So no matter what age they are.
Why self-love and not just love?
Because I feel like without the self-love, you don't know what love is. You know, me personally.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think recently I've learned that before you can love somebody else, you need to be able to love yourself. True love.
Yeah.
Not lust, not, infatuation, none of that. Like, if you're truly going to love somebody unconditionally, you got to be able to love yourself first.
Exactly. Like, because then you confuse what love and lust is if you don't love yourself, like, fully.
Yeah. There's a lot of teachings around love. I'll tell you that, because even one of the other ones was how you love yourself is giving other people an opportunity to learn how to love you best.
Mm-hmm. And
I never knew that, right? I thought those were two different things. Being able to love somebody and being able to receive love, I thought those were two different things. So when I learned that, it gave me a different look on that.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like what I say to myself a lot. It's like how you carry yourself and how you treat yourself is going to show an example to others how they're going to treat you, or how you expect to be treated, So don't take no bullshit.
Yeah, how you expect to be treated. That's a big one. So thinking about that, thinking about the self-love, thinking about addiction, thinking about obstacles, thinking about being in a circle, all of those things together. There's some lived experiences that you have. There's some teachings that you received. With all that knowledge and experience, what advice would you want to give to that next generation?
Honestly, just like everything that I have learned and like everything that I've learned through like group experiences, like healing, I just want to teach them all that I could, there's not one little thing that I want to teach everybody, but it's because I feel like everything ties in with everything, like everything's all connected. So I don't really have like one lesson, because with one lesson, you could just go off like thousands of lessons, So yeah, I don't really have one.
Okay. And I love the fact that they're all interconnected, right? Because one might lead to the other, one might bring you back to another teaching. So let's do this. Top 3. If you got an opportunity to talk to freshman Perla a couple years ago, freshman Perla, what would be the 3 key pieces of wisdom that you would tell your younger you?
Don't people please. That'll be 1. 2, take the time to know yourself truly without any distractions. And 3 would just be take it slow, for sure. Take it very, very slow.
There's no rush. There's no rush. So let me ask you this, though, because you shared a lot, even within this last 30 minutes, right? Is there any closing remarks that you might have for the listeners, for someone that might be in high school struggling, for the younger folks, maybe our older folks that might need to listen to this? What are some closing remarks that you want to make sure that we close out with today?
I'll say just never be too hard on yourself. If you fall, pick yourself up and try again. And if you fall again, pick yourself up and try again. It's never going to be an easy road, or else like everyone would have done it, But if you do it and you do make it on to the other side, applaud yourself. Just celebrate every day that you are doing better than you were a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, a month ago. And just enjoy every living moment, because you just never know if it's going to be your last.
Thank you. I think we all need that reminder. Thank you for that. Before we close up, I just want to say thank you for everything that you shared. I know we got the surface of what Perla is. I know we got some of the teachings that you carry. You were able to bring your mom into the space, but really just thankful for all the different teachings that you shared with us. It's important for us to have self-love. It's important for us to be gentle with ourselves. It's important for us to be connected to a circle where there's people that we could ask questions to, walk with us in our journey. And it's important for us to know who we are and to love ourselves before we love somebody else. So I just want to say thank you for offering of yourself, for offering your stories, and for the journey that will bring you in the future. We're excited to stay connected with you. We're excited to continue to hear your story, and we're excited to learn more. But with that, thank you again. I want to thank our listeners for always tuning in. Please follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook under the National Compadres Network, on Twitter and Instagram under La Cultura Cura. And please, please, please make sure you subscribe to the Healing Generation podcast. We'll be back next month to listen to one of our other youth leaders speak about their journey. So with that, thank you. And we hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.